Well, this is great. Thank you. Well, good morning. What a great day. It's wonderful to see everyone again today. A great, wonderful kickoff yesterday to the annual meeting. So thank you for joining us online and all the watch parties. We appreciate you, and we're hoping to see you this afternoon also. So my name is Holly Daly, and I'm grateful to be your AUSA Family Readiness Director. The AUSA Family Readiness Directorate is honored to be part of a team that's supporting the Army and all our soldiers and families. And one way we do that is through presenting forums such as today. But they're only possible because of the wonderful sponsors that we have. Their sponsorship allows us to bring in quality speakers and provides us with the resources to do what we do. Today's forum, our sponsor supporting that for the Warfighter and Family Forum 2 is a tremendous AUSA national partner, Leidos. I would like to ask Mr. Milad Barami, Senior Vice President, Health Solutions Business Area, Mr. Kevin Kaiser, the Vice President of Performance and Readiness Division, and Dr. Donald Koziak, Leidos Chief Medical Officer, to please stand so we can say thank you for allowing us to do this forum today. Thank you so much, Leidos. So we have a special presentation award for you this morning. At this time, I would like to welcome to the stage Ms. Laurie Lordell. She is the Quilts of Valor Foundation Board of Directors President, and Ms. Lexi Milliken. She's the Executive Director, along with Dr. Rory Cooper, and his wife Rosie. Dr. Cooper is the recipient of the Quilts of Valor Foundation. So the Quilts of Valor Foundation is a nonprofit foundation. They have over 11,000 members, and it makes up over 700 groups. And they're all across the United States. They create and award an average of 30,000 Quilts of Valor each year. Quilts of Valor Foundation started in 2003 when Catherine Roberts, who is the founder, had a dream, right? And while her son was deployed, she dreamt of a soldier that was very distraught until a quilt was wrapped around him. So she took that dream and started a grassroots movement that would eventually award, to date, over 395,000 Quilts of Valor to provide comfort and healing to service members and veterans touched by war. The Quilts of Valor Foundation will also receive this week, and I believe it's tomorrow, the AUSA Distinguished Service Award at the Second Region Breakfast. So this Distinguished Award is awarded for significant contributions to the United States Army or to the Association of the United States Army, and may be presented to individuals holding elective or appointed office. So a little bit about our recipient, who I know very well, Dr. Cooper and Miss Rosie. So if you don't know, Dr. Rory A. Cooper is the founding director and VA Senior Research Career Scientist of the Human Engineering Research Laboratories, which is HURL. And it's a VA Rehabilitation R&D Center of Excellence in partnership with University of Pittsburgh. Go Steelers. Sorry, Dr. Cooper, I had to throw that in there. Cooper has authored or co-authored over 400 peer-reviewed journal publications. Sir, I can't even write one, so that's amazing. He has 30 patents awarded or pending. He is the author of 2 books, Rehabilitation Engineering Applied to Mobility and Manipulation, and also Wheelchair Selection and Configuration. Dr. Cooper is the co-editor of An Introduction to Rehabilitation Engineering, Warrior Transition Leader Medical Rehabilitation Handbook, and the award-winning book, Care of the Combat Amputee. Dr. Cooper is an elected fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, as well as, sir, you might have to correct me on this, I'm sorry, RESNA, i.e., Amby, and Bemis. In October 2023, he was awarded the National Medal of Technology and Innovation by President Biden, and he was inducted into the 50th class of the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Amazing. Dr. Cooper enlisted in the United States Army in 1976 and was assigned to the 3rd Ordnance Battalion, the 32nd Air Defense Artillery Command with the U.S. Army Europe, and was later attached to the 5th Signal Command, USAR, and the United States Military Community Activity Worms. Also, my apology. Dr. Cooper is also a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army Emeritus, the CASA for Western Pennsylvania. So also to let you know, if you have a chance to stop by today or tomorrow, AUSA is live streaming his incredible short film, Bumps in the Road. This will be in the West Salon Lounge, adjacent to the AUSA information booth in the Grand Lobby, so you don't want to miss it. And we want to say welcome to his lovely bride of 40 years, is that correct, Rosie? 43 and counting. So at this time, Ms. Lardell and Ms. Milliken will present the Quilt of Valor Award. Amazing. The award certificate presented reads, "The Quilts of Valor Foundation wishes to recognize you, Dr. Cooper, for your service to our nation. We consider it our privilege to do so. Though we may never know the extent of your sacrifice to protect and defend the United States of America, we award you this Quilt of Valor as an expression of gratitude from a grateful nation." So thank you again, Quilts of Valor, for your continuous dedication to our military service members and families by wrapping them with love. No bumps in the road there. Dr. Cooper and Rosie, I just want to say while you're exiting the stage, I know firsthand the positive impact and transformation you made in many lives, and that includes the Daly family, so we are grateful to you both. Thank you so much. So what a great and honorable way to transition to this panel. As an Army spouse for life, I am grateful for our health care benefit. It has saved my life. And we use it now, and we used it when my soldier was on active duty, so I'm excited for this panel. So good health care is the cornerstone of Army readiness, and that includes family readiness. Today's discussion in support of transforming for a complex world will be on how the Department of Defense and Army is focusing on innovation and modern solutions to deliver person-centric, cutting-edge healthcare to 9.6 million beneficiaries, and that is anytime, anywhere, and always. So to be part of the conversation for the forum today, for those in the room, you got your cards again, right? If you have a question, please fill it out. We'll come get it from you. And online, please send us your questions. We will pull those down, and we will send those up to the panel. Oh, and a shout out. You watch parties that are going on right now, identify where you're at so we can give you a shout. But most importantly, ask those questions. So let's welcome our moderator. Lieutenant General Retired Patty Horho, the 43rd Surgeon General and Commander of the United States Army Medical Command. Today she is the Chief Executive Officer of OptumServe, the end-to-end federal business of Optum and the United Health Group. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you.
It'll be great. Do you want me to move this? Or?
Yeah, that's good. Good morning, everybody, and what an honor to be back here. So, Holly, thank you so much for your leadership and for continuing to serve our Army and our Army families. We appreciate you. Thank you. So today's topic of transforming combat care is close to all of our hearts. And our military medical teams have transformation in its DNA. And over the years, we've seen innovative changes to provide the right care in the right place, at the right time, in the right way. And so the mission to provide health and health care to our soldiers and their families is a sacred trust that clinicians hold dear in the relationship with their patients and who they have the privilege to serve. And so healthcare and health on and off our battlefield is critical to ensuring we have ready, resilient fighting force and a resilient family. And how we choose to spend our time and the decisions we make is crucial for overall health and performance, which impacts Army readiness and performance. And so I look forward to having our panel join us on stage and having the conversations. And more importantly, we look forward to hearing the questions and what's on your mind. So please feel free to write those and bring that up so that we can have a really robust discussion. So thank you very much. So I'm going to invite our panelists to come up and join me on stage. So our first panelist, and I feel like all of these don't need an introduction, but we're going to do it anyways. So Lieutenant General Talita Crosland is the director of the Defense Health Agency, the Joint Integrated Combat Support Agency that enables Army, Navy, and Air Force medical services. General Crosland is a distinguished graduate of the U.S. Military Academy, the Uniformed Service University of Health Sciences, and she holds both a Doctor of Medicine and a Master's of Public Health. Throughout her 30-year career as a Medical Corps officer, General Crosland has held numerous leadership roles, including commanding medical facilities in South Korea, Germany, and the United States. So welcome, Talita. Lieutenant General Mary Izagiri, the 46th Surgeon General and the United States Army Commanding General of the U.S. Army Medical Command. She has distinguished career spanning over 3 decades and holds a Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine and multiple advanced degrees, including a Master's of Public Health. General Izagiri has held leadership roles at commanding medical centers in Hawaii, supporting operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and overseeing military medical readiness. Welcome, Mary. And Dr. Jonathan Woodson is the president of the Uniformed Service University of Health Sciences. USU prepares graduates for service at home and abroad as uniformed health professionals, scientists, and leaders through cutting-edge research, leading the military health system and providing operational support to units around the world. Dr. Woodson is a former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs and served as a Major General in the United States Army Reserve, commanding the Army Reserve Medical Command until 2022. With a distinguished medical career spanning both military and civilian sectors, he is a board-certified surgeon and expert in health policy, strategic leadership, and military health operations. So, welcome, Jonathan. Thanks. What I'd like to do at this time is I'll just start, and I'll start first with Talita, if you're okay, with just providing some opening remarks, and then we'll just go down the line.
Okay, great. Patty, thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction. And thanks to AUSA for hosting this ceremony, this panel, and more importantly, for what you do for soldiers and our families. It is an honor to be here with all of you. You've heard my bio. I've held a lot of positions in our in our system, if you will, and I am also a mom and a user of our system. And so I'm looking forward to today's conversation. A couple of things I want to just say up front is over the last 5 to 7 years, I've certainly had an opportunity as a senior leader to hear from many of you on our healthcare system and things that we can do better. And there's a consistent message that comes through, which is that we all deserve care. We all deserve good care, and we all have an expectation that we meet you where you're at. And what I mean by that is better access and convenient that fits in your actual lives. There was a Surgeon Journal about a decade ago that talked quite a bit about when we look at health and health care, we have to see you not just when you're inside of our 20-minute appointment, but when you're in that proverbial white space. And how do we as a healthcare system actually value you and value your health and well-being? And I have a singular focus on that, and I look forward to sharing as we go through today on some of the initiatives that we're getting after. The second thing is there's a big TRICARE contract that supports 9.5 million of us, and that is always front and center, and I look forward to sharing with all of you where we're at with the transition and some of the things you can expect from T5. And then the last thing I want to speak to is there's always been a passion for mental well-being. And I use the word mental well-being because a lot of times we describe behavioral health as an illness. And up front, I want to ask all of you for your support on our journey to actually just normalizing, continuing to bring down the stigma, looking at all the resources, and bringing mental well-being into our conversation, because our mental health is just like any other health parts of us, right? And so again, I'll share some thoughts on how we're moving forward as an agency to support mental well-being, well-being writ at large, getting into the white space so that we can make all of you positioned to enjoy your lives. It's not about the 20-minute appointment. It's about what healthcare does for you that enriches your lives and our readiness. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Mary?
Thank you. I'm also really excited to be back here again, excited for the opportunity to have a conversation about an area that I've been privileged to serve in for a year or two now, is military medicine, near and dear to my heart. Near and dear to my heart. And like General Crosland, my family benefits from military medicine. I have 5 children, a husband who reminds me every day that it's my job to get after it. So even before my first cup of coffee, I say, just give me a chance to get my first cup of coffee. But he's passionate as well. But I'm grateful for that because what we do is so integral. And I think there's 3 big things that I think about in order to get that strategic focus on what we need to do for combat-ready care. We need to make sure we address the culture of how we are caring for each other and caring for our soldiers and our families, past and present, across the spectrum, because that is foundational to our ability to move forth and be able to do the tough jobs that we're asked to do every day. And that all involves people. How are we caring for people, both within our system, but the people who man our system? I think we've seen how important that is over these past 5 years as we've gone through COVID and gone through the transformations that we have. And so look forward to the opportunity to talk about the investments that we are making in order to bring the best care for people, whether it's in their formations or in their MTF, and make that a transition, a seamless transition, so that we can get people care as close to where they need it as possible, as convenient as possible. And so I could not be more excited to be partnering with General Crosland and all the great work she's doing. And that comes to the final part of it, is partnerships. So whether it's here on our own soil at home, whether it's overseas, partnering across the joint force. I don't think you hear any conversation these days where any service is on its own island. And so we need to make sure that we have robust partnerships that are built before the time of need, so that our families, our soldiers, our beneficiaries can get the best care that they require, so that they can maintain that status of health, ideally. We all have a background in prevention in medicine, and so that is our space that ideally we would be part of that prevention. So people not only have a longer lifespan, they have a longer health span, but ideally they have a longer joy span. They have more life that they are able to live fully to appreciate the freedoms that we are all fighting for. So looking forward to that conversation.
Thank you.
Great. And I'm all in favor of more joy. Okay. But thank you so much, General Horoho, for that kind introduction, and I thank AUSA for inviting me to the conversation. I'm the 7th president of Uniformed Services University, which is now in its 52nd year. We're unique in that we're the only military and federal health sciences university composed of 4 schools and colleges, originally a school of medicine, but a graduate school of nursing, a postgraduate dental college, and a college of allied health sciences, which now addresses the academic requirements for enlisted medical professionals, as well as 20 research centers. We are part of the health professions force generation platform. And as many of you know, that's becoming a challenging endeavor as the United States writ large and the world writ large is working under healthcare professions and workforce shortage. So as we go forward in the future, we'll be working very closely with the services to determine how we should support the generation of the force going on into the future. And of course, the world is changing. It's changing in terms of technology, in terms of requirements. And so our challenge is always to stay ahead of the curve so that our students are relevant to the future in terms of military medicine and will provide the best military medical officers that the country deserves.
Thank you so much. So I'll start. You mentioned about the T5 contract. So can you just expand a little bit as we go into this transition period? And I know it's going to go into effect 1 January.
Sure, Patty. The first thing, the T5 contract's been 10 years in the making because that was the last contract. It will roll out on 1 January of this year. What do I want you to know? The first thing is, if you're happy with where you are, how you're enrolled currently, there's not much for you to do. It won't represent a huge change. Open season will be on November 11th, open on November 11th and go through 9 December. So if you have no changes, you're happy, not much for you to do. The second thing is that there is a change in the contractor. So if you're on the East Coast with Humana won the contract. Humana, nothing will change with their service numbers, their areas of enrollment, their customers, all that will be the same. The provider directories will remain same. Tri-West is replacing HealthNet. So what you will see is Tri-West will be publishing early November a new directorate for providers. What I want you to appreciate is they have assumed a lot of HealthNet, so we don't anticipate a lot of changes in the directory because of the handoff between Tri-West and HealthNet. But again, early part of November, you'll be able to look in that directory and see if your provider is still part of the network, and then you can make your decisions accordingly. The goal I have for our transition for is to be as seamless as possible. At the end of today's panel, we'll have some QR codes where you can get information that pertains to the transition. The last thing is there's some things we did differently in this contract. The first one is I was here a year ago, and one of the primary things was a frustration with the directory. So in the T5 contract, we have put some goals, some objectives, and some financial incentives to drive more accurate provider directories. The second thing in there is the managed care support contractors will be more helpful with navigating. That's my term for it. You won't see navigation, but when you get a referral, they're going to help you get your first appointment for specialty care in the network. The last thing I want to highlight is as we transition, there's some demo projects that have chronic patients like our autistic demo. There'll be warm handoffs. So Tri-West will do a warm handoff so that the beneficiaries that are getting in demo projects such as autism demonstration, it'll be seamless for them. It won't be, I just went from HealthNet, now no one knows what I was doing, no one knows what the benefit was, they're gonna actually hand that off at an individual level to make sure we don't have any key gaps. So QR code would come up, the take home. If you're happy, do nothing. In fact, if you're happy and you want to come back into the MHS, look at our MTFs. They'll have more capacity, not a ton, but certainly. The intent is for it to be transparent, and look for information on the QR code and open seasons 11 November to 9 December.
Yeah, thank you. As a TRICARE user, I appreciate the navigation and Humana, so thank you. So Mary, MedCom's motto is Combat Ready Care. This will defend. Just explain a little bit of what that really means to soldiers and to families.
Absolutely. So as we were looking at our mission going forward, the current state of the world, our direction from Chief of Staff of the Army and Secretary of the Army, that's how we came to Combat Ready Care. And there's 4 different focus areas in there. The first one, not surprisingly, ensuring that the medical forces are ready for combat, whatever comes. And we can talk a bit more about what that means in transformation, in that what is projected ahead is not what's behind. And certainly, while nobody looks forward to that, we must be strongest to deter our enemies, to maintain our safety. You'll see the second line is sustain the health, and that's where we really focus on the importance of keeping faith with families. So sustaining the health of our entire force, because as people go forward, they want to know that their families are cared for.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what's one of the big differences between our jobs and many other jobs, is not only are you committing to a purpose much higher than yourself, defending the nation, but you want to know that your family is cared for. And that's where the Army Medical Department, as part of the military health system, has such a critical linkage, because that's where we not only maintain the proficiency of all of our clinical professionals, but we also support our families, our soldiers, both in the MTFs as well as in the formations. And here's something that I work when I talk to commanders about, is there's a lot of organic medical personnel in the formations. There's battalion surgeons, brigade surgeons, embedded behavioral health professionals that will go down range with those units. And as much as those healthcare professionals provide care within their units at the appropriate level, then there's even more availability and access within the military treatment facilities for our family members, or for those who have healthcare needs that exceed what they might be able to do in that level out there at the units. Also for our medics. I mean, combat medics are incredible people. I just want to give a shout out, NCO of the Year, combat medic. But they must maintain tactical and technical proficiencies. So what I would share with families is that when you see a combat medic in your MTF, that should actually bring you great joy and reassurance that that combat medic is operating at the top of their game. So I partner with General Crossland and her team to say, how do we ensure that all of the members of our medical team, whether they wear a military uniform or a civilian uniform, that they are able to be an integral part of maintaining the health, sustaining the health of our soldiers, our retirees, and our family members, so that if they do need to go downrange, they have those clinical decision-making skills, they have that experience to best support whether here or abroad.
Thank you so much. There's a thread between all 3 of you, and there's a feedback loop, right, of skills readiness and the ability to ensure health, wellness, and then skills on the battlefield. And so, Dr. Woodson, you mentioned a little bit about technology, and so what I want to do is pull the thread there. With the rise of digital transformation and healthcare innovations such as AI and telemedicine, how is USU ensuring that graduates are equipped to not only leverage those technologies, but also lead the military health system into the future?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think, grappling with the digital health transformation is one of the biggest things we've got to accomplish. So let me go back a little bit. I mentioned before about this rather pervasive problem of workforce shortage. Projected 195,000 nurse shortage, 124,000 physician shortage, 400,000 health aid shortage, and in our allied health professions, projected shortages as well. So going forward, the issue is how, and of course, people are at the heart of delivering care.
Absolutely.
And whether it's in a deployed environment or whether it's in garrison. And so the question is, going forward, how do we allow each individual to do more and the capacity of the system as a whole to do more? And so in the future, we've got to leverage technology in order to support the workforce, not only to allow them to deliver more care, but to support their work environment so that they don't get burned out, basically. So AI is one of those technologies that we're looking at very aggressively within healthcare to provide that ability to give the health care individual provider the tools to assimilate the information, provide better care at the point of contact with the patient, and give greater capacity to the whole system writ large. So we're revising our curriculum across the schools and colleges to ensure that our workforce has the competency to work in the digital age. AI is one of those capabilities that they have to be familiar with, that they have to be able to use. The progress in generative AI over the last 24 months has just been incredible. And this is the beginning. We don't know where we're going to be at 5 years, and we don't know where we're going to be at 10 years. And providing the educational foundation for the workforce to work in the digital age will be extraordinarily important. We talk about 3 A's, and I used to teach health sector leadership at Boston University, and one of the things we talk about is the 3 A's in terms of use of technology. The first is to automate everything that humans don't need to be involved with, to take that out of their sort of to-do basket. Then to augment and amplify human capability with technologies. So combining powerful computing with smart humans to build better capacity. And so that's what we're after, to ensure that we have an effective workforce that can deliver the care that the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians need, as well as their families.
Very nice, very nice. And as we wait for questions from the audience, I'm just going to ask Talita if you, because I'm going to use the digital, talk a little bit about your digital front door and what you're trying to accomplish.
Thanks for that, Patty. Last year when I was here, I talked a bit about the passion and where I was leading the agency to leverage technology in an innovative way to improve on access and convenience. And over the last fiscal year, so the fiscal year that just ended, we made investments. We no kidding, put dollars against things to get after what I described. We identified 5 locations, Portsmouth, Jacksonville, Martin Army Community Center, Eglin, and Wright-Patterson. And in January, they started moving out, and we gave them 3 capabilities to get a sense of how we can utilize and scale it to improve primary care and behavioral health. And then let me describe what those 3 capabilities look like. The first one is Silva Cloud. Silva Cloud is a behavioral health platform that allows us to engage you in that white space, but it also allows it to escalate back into the system should you need care. And so if you can imagine, I'll give a good use case that we saw at Eglin. We had a family member that had a terminal illness. And in that family member's last days, there was, not surprising, some mental health component to dealing with that kind of diagnosis. And that patient didn't want to spend weeks coming into the clinic to see a behavioral health provider. So instead, They gave them the Silver Cloud platform. They can engage through a platform that is evidence-based, that gives them tools of coping they could share with their family. And that was on their term, on their space, and it helped. Another example of a tool we rolled out, so that's Silver Cloud, a secure video. And when I say secure video, I get really excited because a lot of times what we all think is it's neat for somebody, but not for me. When you talk about technology, it's 20-character passwords, cheetah flip, the Mars, and then finally you get it to work. It is not that. It's integrated into our EHR, so integrated in MHS. And no kidding, I had a doctor's appointment from my office at Wright-Patterson. I got a link to my personal cell, like every other normal American. I opted in, so I'm telling you when you get this, how to use it. You opt in, and then the next thing showed up was my appointment link. And when I touched that link 2 hours later, there was my intake, and then the provider appeared on the line, and I got taken care of. And for me, that saved me 3 hours. That saved me 3 hours of going over to the Pentagon to be seen. And so those 5 sites are testing that capability. The last one that is going to come out is called Care Companion. Care Companion are tools that allow us to truly get in that white space. So we're looking at 4 of them, postpartum, chronic diseases. Where's Mitch at? What are the 2 am I forgetting? Hypertension. And wellness. And postpartum, right? And so when you see your doc or your clinician, we can now use technology and automation to engage you on your compliance, on did you remember this? It's just utilizing technology that's there already in a way that is convenient and accessible. And before I get the next question, when are you all going to see this? Right? And so for the secure video, we're rolling it out now. So my goal is by the end of this fiscal year is for everyone CONUS-based, and we're going to push on overseas. There are bandwidth and some challenges, but we're going to push it overseas for the whole system to have the ability to do these virtual interactions. And I'll tell one more example, and then I'll shut up. Fort Moore, Martin Army Community Hospital was devastated, was hit by Helene like many of the Southeast. And they had to go to a skeleton crew like many other healthcare systems. And on Wednesday afternoon, I believe, at about 15:30, because they're one of the pilot sites, they moved their appointments to schedule virtual visits. And they quickly sent out links, and then from home, the team took care of 600 of our, that 600 wow. virtual appointments and interactions with our patients.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And the part that I care deeply about that we don't always talk about, it allowed us to also take care of our staff. We did not have to risk bringing in folks to be ready, and they felt cared for. That was actual feedback I got. We honored both our patients and our staff, just leveraging a tool in an innovative way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, congratulations, and I think that's impressive. I think COVID changed our expectations, both from a receiver of healthcare and a provider of healthcare, and that blurring of the lines of accessibility and where you get it and the time that you save. I think it's wonderful to see that you're moving us in that direction.
Yeah, and one other alibi, and this is patient-centric. When we stepped off on doing this, I was adamant with the team, such that oftentimes in healthcare, we build and believe you should come, because we mean it with all our heart and all our, but it is a myopic look, respectfully, from our perspective. And so when we launched these initiatives, they all started with patient journeys. We mapped out what it looks like from the lens of a patient coming into our system, and we challenged ourselves to take out things that are not value added. Okay. So if you go back to the Fort Moore, the Martin Army story, there was nothing but that MTF. There wasn't General Crossland calling to tell them to do that. They simply took the tool, took out all the friction that wasn't value added, said, you know what, I think we could figure out how to send some links, contact, and they did all that in like 2 hours.
I love it.
And so I just want you to hear, this isn't more of the same. This is truly driving us to change how we deliver care, a different model.
It's a mindset change.
A mindset change, leveraging the technology, which is cool, but the real hard work and the thing I'm most proud of is the mindset change, that this is about the people we're here to take care of and the people on the team taking care of those folks.
Yeah, perfect. Let me just ask for online and in the audience, if you have questions, just write them down.
Yeah, okay.
Well, obviously, I wasn't observant.
You were
Patty.
enthralled.
That's,
Enthralled
Patty?
with the
that's the
conversation.
ER nurse in me. You know, you can tune out the world and kind of focus on what you've got.
Patty, can I make just a comment
can.
on General
Yeah.
Crossland's
Thanks.
initiatives? You know, the senior leaders of the Army have evolved this concept of transformation in contact. This is transformation in contact.
Absolutely.
And we've all got to appreciate how difficult that is, but in a technologically advanced world, healthcare has got to leverage these technologies. You know, there was a book written by Christian Bose a few years ago called The Kill Chain, in which he talked about this battlefield sort of situation where you got to know what's happening, you've got to decide what happens, you've got to take action and, of course, reassess. And in today's world, with the complexities of the modern battle space, you've got to have technology to help you do that. And so what General Crossland is talking about is just that. We have rephrased that kill chain concept into the survival chain. And so we have, in the healthcare community, have responsibilities for doing just that, leveraging technology so that we can understand what's happening in the healthcare space, whether it's deployed or it's garrison, understand how to get the best care to our beneficiaries and the people we serve, make sure that we can take action to provide the optimum outcomes. So this is transformation in contact.
It really is. And where I think it's a transformation as well as the way we think. Because I would say when I first learned about virtual visits, I remember sitting in the conference room at Fort Carson, and it was behavioral health visits.
Yes.
And I said, nobody's going to ever want to see somebody online. And General Phil Volpe at the time looked at me, he's like, Mary, you got to get with the times. And where I think that this comes into the transformation and how does it bring together the sustain the health of the families, sustain the health of the force, inspire trust in the care around the world, it is that it maintains those human clinical capabilities for the cases that really require it. And it brings the care and the access to our patients wherever they are, closest to their place of need. It gives them more choice. Because if there are patients who say, no, I really do need to be seen by a person, I really do want to come see you, then there's going to be more availability of appointments for that. And one of the great things about working with clinicians is they usually really love their work. And so they want to see patients who really need them. So if really I just need a refill or I just need to ask for something that could be taken care of by these digital solutions, the patient gets taken care of at the simplest level. The clinicians get to see patients who truly need their training, and then they maintain that high level of engagement in clinical decision making. So if their skills are needed downrange, they'll be at their top of their game.
And you'll hear this called My Military Health. My team will kill me if I don't get that out there, right?
Branding, good
yeah,
job.
well, and also because the My kind of ties in the theme here is the My is we're doing this from a perspective of patient human engagement. And so it's your health. I'm also using the My from our perspective as a system. It's my military health system. And I have agency in it as well to make sure that we meet what our ultimate goal and mission is when we all went into healthcare. And so that's my military health. And the military is because we're special. All of us in this room, all of us online, all of us who've served, it's that military part that makes our health special. And we own that, my military health.
Perfect. So the first question from the audience, this will be directed to you, Mary. And so what role does strength and conditioning play in support of combat-ready care?
Thanks for that question. We had a chance to touch on it at one of our panels yesterday. Strength and conditioning is huge. I mentioned that, so I'm a family physician. I'm a big believer in prevention. I'll share with you, when I first came in the military, I could not do one push-up. I had probably spent more time studying for med school than I had being fit. And so I am a beneficiary of the Army's strength and conditioning over the years. We're even more intentional with it now. There's health and holistic fitness, which is being rolled out. And I know our Army senior leaders are making some announcements just this week on the pace of rollout of those programs. But to me, strength and conditioning is huge because that helps us work the prevention piece. And that is a great question that also demonstrates the importance of our caring for our soldiers across the spectrum. And we also have some Armed Forces Wellness Centers that make that accessible to families. And I think that it's important for families to be avail themselves of that as well, because as we want to get into that health span and joy span space, maintaining ability and vitality and really having that agency over your own wellness and health is huge. And again, that way our health care is available for you when you need it, but as much as we can invest in that strength and conditioning and can meet you at any level where you are. I mean, I think that's the big thing about it. It's not a overnight, it is a invest, be intentional, get a battle buddy, an accountability partner to do that for you, to help encourage you, because none of us is as strong as all of us together, and that comes back into that community piece, is how do we as a community come together around supporting the wellness. We have some mechanisms through the Armed Forces Wellness Centers, through H2F, to maintain health and readiness.
Thank you. I think I'm changing my vocabulary. I'm now entering the joy span space, and it just sounds so much nicer than getting older. But, okay. That was my inside voice just coming out and sharing.
Doing drugs, right?
Okay. This is from the 82nd Airborne. So, and this is to General Crosland. We lose great civilian spouses, healthcare, staff and providers during moving and transition because we can't get them hired in a timely manner, and they go elsewhere. These people are already in the system. Can we find a way to have enter DoD compact to allow them to be hired quickly without the bureaucracy?
So this has been there are about 5 things that over 30 years have made me insane, and one of them is how we hire in our processes. And so another area where we put a lot of time and energy, what does the DHA control in that to make it smoother and cleaner? Getting you all through security checks, looking at policies and processes so that we don't repeat things when you go from Fort Liberty to Fort Moore. Right? So absolutely, we're looking at what a part of, honestly, it's not the fun stuff and the sexy stuff, what part of processes and policies do we take down rather than add a pack, right? Because what's happening is we're layering things on top of. And so I did the let's walk the dog from the moment we think we need to hire someone to how long and the gates they all have to go through to come on. And then what we learned is there's some things that we're doing to make that way more complicated. So centralizing some of that so we don't have entropy for every single MTF having to figure that out. All right, so I have a team that looks at this from a very central level. Some things that we just have to update and use technology, like fingerprinting and security, tend to be one of the long poles in the tent in getting people to come on. Well, we just let a contract. What do you know? There's ability for a really trivial amount of money for people to get their fingerprints at home and to just mail them in, and then it goes into the system. So we've launched that. So we're doing a lot of things to shrink the time. And then the last thing that really you probably don't want to hear is we have a lot of variation. And so it's not as clean as we want to believe that if you were, let's take a nurse at Fort Moore and you were at this PD doing this job, and now you move to pick a location, If that PD and job are different, it takes a fair amount of bureaucratic work to work through that. So I have the team in a non-bureaucratic way getting standardization to some of those descriptions so that it'll make it smoother and easier to move folks within our system and not delay them. A lot is on us. I'm not a fan of another bureaucratic process like a compact or agreement. I'm much more about knocking down streamlining the things that we can do. And we're seeing some impact. And the last thing I'll say is each of the military treatment facilities, they feel this passionately. And so they're doing their part with cutting out things like putting a job action out there. They're holding fairs. And they're cutting down and they're doing some administrative such that they're able to do a tentative job offer in the first 60, 90 days. And sometimes before leaving the site, they are giving tentative job offers, which shrink our time.
Thank you. And this will be for anybody on the panel who would like to answer. How do you see the best ways for families to receive continuity of care when we move every 1 to 3 years? The issue is coupled by the fact that providers also move frequently. And I think Secretary Wormuth actually addressed some of this yesterday of looking at a little bit of potential stability.
Yeah, so that has been a topic that's come up at some of the, what are we doing that may not bring value? So bigger Army, they are absolutely looking at where do we make decisions where we need to move people for the mission and not. I had the opportunity just from our medical workforce side to change that thought process as far as what we call our YMAVs, how often our providers move. And so looking at that and saying, hey, we're not going to just move you every 3 years. We're actually going to take a look and say, does it make sense for you to move? Or does it make sense for us to provide you some stability? Does it make sense even to try to, if you need to move, maybe it's regionally? Because that's balance of the career progression and the desires. But having those conversations with folks, that's been really rewarding. Is sometimes we get this thought process that, well, our people must want to do this next job because it seems like it would be appropriate, but yet they are actually really prioritizing, hey, for me right now, my family's here. In fact, I had a conversation with the Surgeon General a few years ago about stabilizing my family because my oldest son's on the spectrum. And so I stayed in a job for a few years, and actually that's the only reason I'm here today, is because of timing. So just putting it out there and giving our soldiers permission to say, you know what, there are times, have that honest conversation with your leadership about whether moving at this time makes sense, and is there a way that we can make it appropriate for the Army mission and appropriate for your family, and what are those trade-offs? I think we've all talked about. It's less about saying we're balancing, because that seems like a fail win, but trade-offs. Here's the time I'm going to trade off progressing in my career at this certain pace and not. So that's from the medical workforce standpoint. And then, again, this is another where I think the continuity of the record is exciting as we've moved from the time. Some of you might remember when you would go down, you'd pick up your record. Mine was red. It had a little worn cover. It got thicker over the years, right? And then you'd be the person responsible for carrying that. And so now with the digital innovations, your record should be able to be more quickly pulled up. So if the soldier is moving, that is going to move with them and hopefully help. And then there's some initiatives as far as the warm handoffs, particularly people who have chronic conditions or those conditions that we know have more complex care. The military health system has some innovations where they're proactively capturing that to decrease a little bit of the burden on the families.
Thank you. Thanks. And Dr. Woodson, this one is for you. How is USU preparing its graduates to handle the unique challenges faced by today's Army, whether it's caring for wounded warfighters in combat or supporting families dealing with the stress of multiple deployments?
Yeah, thanks very much. So we pride ourselves, as opposed to civilian health professional schools, in providing military unique curriculum throughout the years that they are learners in our university. So there are many courses that our students take on the particular issues of behavioral health within the military, about the stressors of military life, as well as, of course, military skills that give them a firsthand experience of what it's like, obviously, to be in the military. So pervasive throughout all of our courses in schools is this military unique curriculum. And I think at the end, what we do is we provide a better product in terms of a health provider to the military that's very culturally aware and has the skills and the insights to deliver cares to both those who serve in uniform and their families going forward. And we have, in fact, some objective data from our long-term outcome studies saying that when compared against others who are assessed directly from civil society, that there is this greater competency in these areas. One of the interesting things is that, a number of years ago, we helped establish this enlisted to MD program. And this story has multiple beneficial outcomes. Number one, it allows talented medics who are identified by the services to go on a pathway to go into the medical school to become doctors. But I was at this reception one day, and I was approached by a couple of our students who had come from the special ops community. And they just loved the fact that they had been given a pathway to develop themselves in a very unique way, get professionally developed. And they fully plan to return to the special operations community to provide service. Think about that product. I don't think you can buy that on the outside. And so we're looking, about 35 to 40% of our students have prior military experience, and I think that's really important. And so one of the things we're looking at in order to enhance the quality and the preparation of our providers is to ensure that they have this military relevant experience and training, because I think that's really important to providing optimal service.
Beautiful, thank you. And then General Izagiri, and anybody else to feel free to comment on this. To boost recruitment for medics, Corpsman, is DOD considering activating the MAVNI program the Army used recently? And I know that had been in effect for quite a while.
Yeah, so I was involved in MAVNI policy, and that's where we have individuals who come from overseas and have different skill sets. Haven't been part of that discussion recently, but as far as the recruitment and retention question, I think that's a huge area where both in recruiting and retention. So on the medic side, we discovered that our medics had not been on the priority recruiting list for a little bit. So that was corrected. My sergeant major was on that. Then on the clinician side, on the officers, we really focus a lot on retention. And that's where we can help with both access to care today, but that experience in the future. Because if you think about it, many soldier specialties have an AIT. I have 2 children in the military now, so my one had a 1-year AIT and specialty training, really long, right? But imagine if it was 7 to 13 years, like it is for some of our clinicians. Retention becomes incredibly important because we've invested a lot of money in training them, and so then retaining them is important. So we've been working both across the river as well as within our own organization, and how do we have bonuses that reflect their value, but then really how do we have a culture that people want to stay in because they are so rewarded by practicing in this sort of environment we just talked about, where you're getting to see patients that really need you. You're working in a system where you feel supported and valued, and you can operate at the top of your game. And then you have the chance to care for soldiers. I mean, that's one of those things that it is hard to replicate elsewhere. Young people who would put their lives on the line, who had volunteered to defend our nation
Absolutely.
by their own choice, and the families that would support their choice to do that. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. So when you talk to people who have the chance to care for soldiers, and they can do it in a system where they're supported and valued, that's one of the strongest retention tools we have.
Thank you. I'm going to take the liberty of combining two questions, and so General Crosland, I'm going to give you a twofer. So the first one is, MTF infrastructure varies widely around the world. Please discuss your efforts to modernize the MTF infrastructure. And the second half of that is blood pressure, heart rate, temp, and O2 saturation are important measurements during preventive and acute appointments. How will these measurements be collected during virtual health appointments? And will service members be issued a VALS pack? Did I get that right?
Okay. So for the first question, if I can reframe it to where we are today, which is we have an infrastructure. We have 130 military treatment facilities across the globe. And about 66 of them are in medically underserved areas. And so up front, they're in medically underserved areas, but they exist because of the M in our military health system. We're not a business. They are there to take care of service members and their families. And so there's no plan to make those go away, all right? They're medically underserved because around them, there's no other health care. For an example, if you look at Fort Irwin, we have a hospital out in Fort Irwin because the nearest facility, and it's a training area, it's a large training area, is simply too far away. And so we're going to optimize the footprint we have. And how do we do that? We have large medical centers, and there have been several National Defense Authorization Acts that give us opportunities to make sure that those large facilities are prepared to receive casualties should we go to conflict, that they also become centers of excellence because our beneficiaries entitled the very best. And they also happen to support, in this case, our Army, in where we do those 7 to 13-year training that Mary just described in the medics. And so our large facilities, we're making sure that we get to the staffing level to sustain. Our small facilities, we're making sure that we keep them stable so that they can take care of their primary care, behavioral health, physical therapy, their core competencies to keep the soldier and their families healthy and well. And then we leverage the contract. We leverage our TRICARE contract. Where I'm particularly excited is we're still in the same environment of shortages. We're still in the same environment that everyone else is. And this is where we get to partner, not just with our Army, but across the other military departments to leverage technology in order to meet the need of beneficiaries. For example, I'll pick dermatology. That's a short specialty in the United States. I don't care what city you're in or where you're at, the wait for dermatology is months. If we have capacity at Walter Reed, because we train dermatologists, we need the hard cases, we can use technology in two ways. The first is if I'm a primary care doc and I just have a quick question, if I can get that answer, I save that referral.
Absolutely.
I save that referral. And so setting up where we can get quick answers from our teammates across the military health system. And then when I need to do that referral, I can leverage technology virtually to see that patient where they're at, and should they need a procedure, then work with the patient to get that procedure, a biopsy, whatever done. So that's how we're using technology to modernize our current footprint. Because our current footprint, I would argue, is at a level where most of our senior leaders aren't that thrilled. If you ask anyone, if we had a magic wand, we would grow more hospitals, we would grow more capacity. So my goal is not to look at how we take down what we have, but how do we optimize and modernize and leverage the entire team. And note, I said Walter Reed, I left out that the dermatologist might actually be wearing a different uniform than ours. And that's how the military health system's been supporting. right? Right now, an Air Force facility that has a specialty that an Army facility doesn't have, they're going to support each other. And virtual will be a way to buy down, if you will, the inconvenience and the distance that we're all experiencing, because the reality is the care doesn't exist. And the second question was?
Well, second question was for, think of all your vital signs that need
Oh,
to,
yeah,
right?
so that's exciting where we're going. I'll probably be long retired before this all becomes to the question that they asked, right? Not that long retired because the speed, and it's wearables.
We could work on your retirement date.
Yeah, it's... So the question, as I heard it, is are we going to incorporate wearables? And so if anybody's wearing an Apple Watch right now, your watch collects all kinds of information. It gives you a VO2 proxy, it gives you, right, and soon. And you're able to share that data with certain healthcare systems right now. You can hit a button and in your information. What I would argue is most healthcare systems are not organized to ingest your data.
Absolutely.
And then do something with it in the space that we all know we need to go. So we're going to have to take a deep breath. We're going to have patience, but we all see the potential. We all see the potential, and that potential really is how we get after well-being, we get after wellness, and when we do that, when we have illness, we can intervene sooner, right? So my utopia is exactly that, right, where we can see your data, you can use it without me. That's the first thing. That same data, right, it's billions of dollars for Fitbits and rings and all of that, and that's not about healthcare. That's about working with you as a human being on behavioral changes to improve your sleep, your nutrition, your activity to make you healthier. And so I don't want to compete in that space. What I want to do as a healthcare system is recognize that if we put resources in that space before you become a patient, it allows us to better manage the resources we have for patients, but it also keeps you healthier and gives us the best opportunity to get back to that joy we were all just talking about. And so, yeah, I think wearables, we are likely to move out in it first. It's going to be in the inpatient setting, just going to be honest with you all. It's the most ripe. It is the clearest way where some of these technologies have shown enormous value. But some of those investments I talked about is exactly looking at how do we ingest all of this data and then package it such that it goes to you in a way that helps you stay healthy, comes back to us as a healthcare system to identify where you're in your continuum of maybe not being healthy so we can intervene sooner, right? You're having a couple of irregular heartbeats. You have a run of AFib that you didn't even recognize, but now I know because your data came to you, and we can proactively reach out to you, right? That is the world we're moving towards. We've got a couple of steps first. Let's get the secure videos out. Let's get the ability to interface with you from your phone. And I don't want to belittle that. Our ability to do that is key to everything else we're talking about, is to be able to interact with you in a way that's accessible, convenient, and recognized by you as value. Right? I didn't talk much about our patient portal. There's a lot of work we're going to do to improve that, but I do want to say I understand that that's not really your world. Most of us don't go to desktops anymore, and most of us don't go to websites anymore. We like apps, we like things, and so we are moving in that space as we also do a better job in the space we're currently in.
And just pulling on that, Dr. Woodson, are you changing the curriculum for our physicians so that they feel comfortable relying on the data that a patient says, I took off of my Apple Watch or I took off of my Oura Ring? Or, just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is the brave new world. This is the point I've been making about preparing our workforce to work in a digital world. Traditionally, schools of medicine, schools of nursing, dental schools have not incorporated in their curriculum sort of a mindset as well as an ability to work with these tools. We can no longer afford to do that. Our workforce has got to be able to work in a digital world. In 2001, the Institute of Medicine, now the National Academy of Medicine, came out with a very important document called Crossing the Quality Chasm. And at that time, they had identified 6 major pillars of an optimized health system and 2 overarching themes. It had to be safe, it had to be effective, it had to be efficient, not wasting resources. It needed to be equitable, it needed to be timely, and it needed to be precise. Patient-centered at that time, but precise today, particularly when you factor in genomics and proteomics, that says that the way you react to a drug is not the same way I'm going to react to a drug. And then it needed to be learning and it needed to be connected. Now, back in 2001, the concept about how to achieve that was really radically different than today in a digital world. We should be striving to achieve those pillars of an optimal healthcare system using and leveraging technology. And really there are 4 major issues that we need to deal with in order to advance, and this is what we're incorporating in the curriculum, is number 1, how do you evaluate evolving health and biotechnologies for true value? Is what Dr. Crossland, General Crossland is talking about. Number 2, how do you re-engineer the system to leverage those technologies? Again, what General Crossland is focused on. The third is what we've been talking about, this workforce development to enable them to utilize and want to utilize these technologies. And then the fourth is changing laws and statutes that encumber us from using these technologies. So we've got to embrace all of these issues together to get to where we want to be. And so it's very important, this workforce, this people issue, is extraordinarily important in terms of advancing their understanding and their ability to use these digital tools, because we can change the system any way we want, but if the people are not ready to embrace and utilize these tools, we won't get to where we need to be.
Yeah, you know, Jonathan makes a good point. One of the things that I feel a sense of urgency is it's not a surprise as a nation we're capitalistic. And if you just look at the explosion in this industry on marketing directly to human beings, these technologies that haven't necessarily gone through a rigor, that have not been vetted, you know, we'll see what happens with TikTok in our country, but right now, TikTok is a place where lots of people go for mental, they see it as going for mental help. I won't say health, but they'll go there for mental help. They will leverage tools that are just out there on their own. And I feel passionate that as a healthcare system and our commitment to why we serve and what we want to do, that we've got to get in this space and we can't continue to be slow out of the gate. I mean, there was a time when all of us went to something called a BANK. Right, and my child doesn't know what a bank looks like. And we thought the ATM was the rage, right? And now I open my phone up with my face and I touch a button and I've paid someone. And I say that because healthcare and education are 2 of the last industries to fully lean into this space. And I believe we do a huge disservice both on education, so I won't go there right now, and certainly in healthcare, if we don't lean into this space in the way that Jonathan's talking about and fully get after this, because someone else will, and it will be less than what we all want and what we all deserve.
Yeah, and if I can turn that just a little bit towards where we are going with a partnership. So we partner with DHA and what they're doing here at home. Just to share a little bit with you about how we're doing that with transforming for what our medics can do overseas. So partnering with the education industry on the cutting edge. So we just had a chance to be out with Stanford, and how even the educating our medics, but then they're open to how the tools can educate them. So for example, ultrasound on the battlefield. We can put in their hand tools that can be put on the patient, the image can be transferred, they can get some guidance, move a little this way, move it a little that way, so that the person on the other end who has more training can actually make a diagnosis and then help plan for the care of that patient or prioritize resources. So some of the scenarios predicted for us, we won't have free resources to come and go as we experienced in Iraq and Afghanistan. So leveraging that technology and having our medics and our providers on the front lines be open to that, be willing to be guided by their tools, is another way that we can increase capability with the realities of the workforce and the people that we have on hand.
So let me just give you another analogy of why this is so important. So the doubling time for medical knowledge today has been estimated to be 0.2 years. Think about that. 2.5 months is the doubling time of the information that's generated that would influence how you deliver care or specific treatments or basic science, if you will. Healthcare providers can no longer just keep between their two ears all of the information that's necessary to deliver precise care, one of the key pillars that was identified in 2001. And as a result, we need tools. An analogy would be, I beg your pardon here, be the F-35 fighter, in which it's an amazing machine when you've got a heads-up display and you have integrated systems so that the pilot can fly that and feel one with the aircraft and do amazing things. Well, where's our heads-up display in the medical field, understanding that the information doubling time is 0.2 years. We need to be able to integrate information more effectively, again, using individuals' genomics, proteomics, to deliver precise care. And so we have to move down that line of advanced health technologies that provide the ability to amplify and augment the human capability to deliver care.
So we're getting close to time. We've got about 10 minutes left. The question before I turn it over to kind of closing comments from everybody is, I'd like to address it to General Izagiri. And we heard yesterday morning that the Army met their recruiting mission, which was a huge accomplishment, and it's going to be increased for next year. And so one of the questions from the audience was, some of the Army's recruiting challenges have to do with finding medically fit young Americans, especially with the advent of the electronic records that lets Mets providers see very old issues. And so the question is, and Talita, you may want to comment too, is DHA and the Army working together to review health policies for potential recruits, and are there any new initiatives? So we'll let that be our last question.
Sure. So one of the reasons I feel so privileged to be in this position right now is because if any of the questions that start with, is DHA and the Army, are DHA and the Army working together? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Because one, we have to, and two, we have a phenomenal trust between our leadership, which we work to perpetuate through our organizations to address where we are today. So I'll just address an elephant in the audience. Has anybody been with the Army before 2017? If so, please raise your hands. Okay, so thank you for hanging with us through one of the largest transformations in healthcare, actually in the Army, since the Air Force broke away and became, what they do. We love the Air Force. We love the Air Force. But no, seriously, I think it's important to understand the magnitude of the change that happened when we received the legislation that said, hey, we're going to have the Defense Health Agency have authority, direction, control, basically run the business of military health care with partnership in the services. And so we went through what you would expect. Norming, storming, we had our stages of grief where we were angry and we bargained and we, but now we're here. And that's a phenomenal thing that we have gotten to this stage. So I'm grateful to be in this position at this stage where we can collaborate on moving forward on things. So as far as the recruiting piece, we receive great amounts of feedback on the records and what we're finding, and actually, and I'll let General Crossland talk to some of the AI pieces that we may be working in the records. And we're also working with OSD on the policies to make sure that the policies reflect current medical knowledge, so that if something used to be an ever, now is it maybe 5 years, maybe as 3 years, have we learned more about stability and capabilities? So we are working the policy piece in that respect.
And not much to add. Mary's right. We're working together. It's OSD drives the policies. It's not just Army. It's the entire force and DOD. And so DHA in support is real.
Perfect. Lightning round, just one word that you want people to walk out thinking about. Dr. Woodson.
I think there's a great future ahead. There's a great future ahead in terms of provision of health care and for people who want to be part of that very special mission, which, you know, again, from my point of view, is, you know, just a tremendous career path. So if you know somebody out there who wants to be part of the healthcare workforce, let us know.
General Lisa-Gary.
So since being in this role, I've had clarification of what Army Medicine's job really is. And our job is really to inspire trust. Inspire trust in our soldiers that the best health care in the world is there with you shoulder to shoulder. Inspire trust in our families that we will provide the care that you need as you support your soldier. And inspire trust in our workforce that we are the sort of organization that you want to be part of. So we look forward to continuing to work and get to the highest level of that.
Thank you. General Crosland.
I think I want to amplify some of the words from Secretary Wilmoth yesterday in an opening statement. And she said something to the effect of, she described challenges, she described hard, and then she said something to the effect of, we're the Army, and we know how to do hard. And when we do hard together, we are always, always effective. And so I just want you to leave with a sense of optimism. It's hard. We know how to do hard. We are, in fact, doing hard together, not just for me with the Army, but with Navy, with Air Force as well. And I am optimistic because we've never come up short and we're not about to start now. So I want you to leave with a sense of optimism that we are moving forward in a positive direction.
Perfect. Thank you all for your leadership and for taking so much time with us. And if we can give them a big round of applause.
This was terrific. Once again, let's give all of our panelists a big round of applause, and we'll let them exit the stage. Thank you very much. As both a military consumer of healthcare and a former provider, I appreciate hearing from our leadership the state of military healthcare in the future. And the future is very bright, and I am optimistic as well. So, in keeping with AUSA's mission to inform, connect, and educate, the QR codes on this particular form that's been in several seats, please take a moment, give us your feedback. Once you've completed that, you'll get access to a lot of digital resources. Some of them are pretty cool. I'll pull up some of what it looks like. So once you finish it, you'll see a whole list of resources that you guys can click and access. So please do that. Another thing is your feedback's important to us. It helps shapes what these forums look like. Also, at the back of the room, there's an AUSA table with information, handhold stuff, kind of stuff. So please pick some of that up. Also, we have our tote bags that's filled with resources from the exhibitors downstairs to include the family forums. And we have Miss Ginger Perkins, who is signing the Army Spouse Handbook outside. Please stop by and say hello to her as well. This is also from AUSA, a complimentary copy, and Veterans United Home Loans. And finally, at 1500, please come back to the room for our senior leader fireside chat. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention today.